It's the Permanent Municipal Building Committee meeting for April 9th. It's probably going to be just an abbreviated meeting because we don't have all our attendees here. We got Tim just came in.
Hello.
Hi, Tim. Do you know whether Bartlett's coming?
I think he's coming. Haven't heard that he's not coming.
Okay. We're going to do this in reverse from the what the actual agenda is, and have Brian give us an update on the senior center and the
Sure.
Indian Hill project.
Yep, I'll take the senior center quickly, and we don't have anything really for approvals, but it's just an update on where we stand. I will share my screen quickly, if that's okay. We don't have our invoice packets for you tonight. That's going to be in 2 weeks to the end of the month so that we can pay the invoices. We're going through that currently right now.
Yep.
This is currently where we stand from an overall project budget. What I'm highlighting right here is what's been spent. This is what is, I'm sorry, remaining to be spent. I can zoom in a little bit if you can't see that. So what has been spent, what's remaining to be spent, and then what's uncommitted and available at this point. So we're in a pretty healthy position. I believe the invoices for next month are probably going to take about $750,000 off of this, with Commodore and LLB and Vertex, and with a few other miscellaneous vendors that are owner vendors that we're going to be recommending payment as well. So the things that I did want to share just regarding some of the changes, these are not going to come in the form of an owner's change. These were things we've identified through it that were either a scope gap or added scope, but Commodore is going to absorb these costs as part of the guaranteed maximum price. They still have their contingencies and their allowances, and we are able to absorb it underneath the contract. The first of which is a low voltage for AV. We're calling it AV, but yes, so this is some of the work that needed to be done in the multi-purpose room. We had low voltage wiring that was being run to certain equipment, back to the closet, and then back to the MDF room. This was tracked on T&M, confirmed by us in the field, and then used against one of the allowances that we have currently under contract. So no cost change out of the owner's side of the contingency. The second is baluster protection.
Brian, hold for just a second. Kirby, can you let Bartlett Harvey in?
Yeah, already started. It's already in.
Thank you, sir.
The next is baluster protection. This is on the main staircase in the senior center. It's to create almost a wood base. It was determined once it was constructed that some added carpentry work along the wall side of the stringers needed to be added as part of that. So there was some pretty intricate millwork that needed to go in. And as you can see, it's sandwiched between the existing balusters according to the supplementary conditions that was provided by the architect. I can scroll down and try to show you the sketch on where this location is. If you can see here where the things are clouded here this is up on the second floor. And as I scroll down a little bit more, I can show you, excuse my.
Is that to stop a pool ball rolling off the?
That's a good
Yeah.
point. That's probably
Yeah.
that's one of the issues. Another is kind of a code in ADA. As you can see here, one of the things that was not part of this change, but something that we wanted to make sure we matched, is when you walk in the front entry and you look to your right, there is that void that's underneath the main staircase. There is a rail that's here, and that is for not only protection from people entering that area. It gives some sort of a guard against people walking into that area, but it also matches all of the railings and balusters that we have. So this is another cost change that came at $9,300, and was, let me zoom out, excuse me, $9,200. This is also absorbed by the Commodore contingency that we see here. The next was a request by the building inspector, which is some added exit signs. As we've gotten into punch list and getting our final affidavits and getting our occupancy, we've had a lot of walkthroughs with the building inspector as well as the fire department. This is not typical. I mean, this is not atypical to have some last minute requests of the building inspector as he wanted some added extra exit signs. And there may be some code interpretation between the architect and the authority having jurisdiction, but that's really not a fight we should be having with the building inspector. So we will appease that and install the exit signs. And this was also tracked with slips from our electrical contractor. This is also going to be coming out of allowance that's already carried under the guaranteed maximum price. So ultimately, we would be bundling these 3 change orders. Commodore will issue us a zero cost change, but we will also be tracking that when they send their invoices in to make sure that they're coming out of the correct buckets on their end. I did start us off with the budget here. So what I just went over will not affect our bottom line on what we have here. Currently in our construction contingency, we still have almost $400,000. In our owner's project contingency, we have almost $150,000. And there are also miscellaneous buckets that you can see above here in the last column that we don't anticipate using. Things like advertising, other administrative costs, some geotech stuff that we didn't have to use. So we're in a very healthy position. Some things to look in the future that we will be spending some money on. The construction house that we are currently using as our headquarters for construction, we are doing some very minor work there, some painting touch-ups, some property line maintenance, whether it's some fencing. We've added the driveway for any future residents to go in on that property. We're cleaning it up a little bit. Anything that was outside the contract, they owned cleaning it up and making sure it was left the way that they found it. But we're trying to do that a little bit better than that. So that will consist of a new seed in the front yard, new fence, and possibly some added plumbing work that needs to be done in the house in order to bring that up to code. Back to the overall construction project, we're about 95% done the punch list. We anticipate furniture being delivered on the 21st of April on Patriots Day. The following day, a week earlier, we'll be doing our paving, our final paving. Currently, the site's being swept this week. Following the furniture delivery, we will stripe the parking lot with new painting. We have solar that is being commissioned and finalized this week and next. We're also engaging with them to see about any future monitoring that we can do from the solar, as it's a pretty cool tool if you're able to access it and see what the building is actually generating. We're also monitoring the management. Liz and her staff have been managing the donations that have come in. And so we want to make sure that's being put to good use. So they're identifying things that are going to be purchased with that donation money. For example, some of the furniture, exterior furniture, the pool tables, the billiards are going to be paid for by donations. Fitness equipment that we do have some budgeted line items for, but ultimately will be paid out of the donation bucket. So that's great news, and we're confirming that the exterior furniture will be available for the ribbon cutting that's scheduled on the 16th of May. Plantings are on site. I'm not sure if I'm sharing my whole screen. I can reshare. I can share just a couple pictures that we have here of plantings that are currently on site and have been located by the landscape architect. He has advised at the beginning of this project, due to budget constraints, we took out some of the landscape package, and he provided us a sketch in order to show some additional plantings that we could do at the front of the property. It's also an opportunity for some donor funds to come in to place that. So as you can see, some of the new trees, we have some spruce trees and some evergreens that are going along the side of the property between the senior center and the neighboring resident that we're using for the construction house. Landscaping is ongoing. We've opted to put some sod in the front of the building on the parking lot side where the ribbon cutting will be going to make sure that that's established and looking nice for all the photo opportunities. And trying to find, I think our only milestone, our biggest hurdle is the weather and making sure that it's warm enough in order to apply the exterior paint. So they're on a painting when they can basis right now. And so hopefully we can get a majority of that done towards the end of this week. And hopefully we get some improving weather next so that they can get the required coats on here before we wrap up by the end of the month. We're planning on vacating the house on May 1st. There will probably be some miscellaneous work that's still ongoing, but the operations will probably be moving out of there and cleaning up and getting that ready to be turned back over to the town. The last thing I have is just the planning board establishing the property lines of the neighboring property that still needs to go through the planning board. We have some miscellaneous work by the surveyor who is laying out the actual property lines that's being requested by the town. We want to make sure that the future owner does not own what I'll show here. I'm zooming in a little bit on the hill side that's between the senior center and the adjoining property. The proposed property line was cutting right halfway down the hill, and that would be cause for some maintenance issues as well as kind of a confusing line that ultimately if it's one or the other, it would be much more beneficial. So we're going to try to split that property line such that the hill is going to be owned and maintained by the town, and then the upper portion would be the backyard of that property. And once we establish that, then we will investigate putting in some fencing up there to separate the two lots. Okay, I think that's my list right now. We'll probably have our last monthly report ready for you for the next meeting, and I anticipate after the ribbon cutting, we will have some very minimal work that's being done. And ultimately, we've lined ourselves up pretty well with closeout and O&M manuals and as-builts to be complete. And we should be wrapped up and walking away from the project and starting the warranty phase in probably late May, early June.
Ryan, how much do you anticipate that it's going to take to put the house back into condition?
Money-wise?
Yeah.
So the way we looked at it was to get us some quotes from per trade, whether it's give us a plumbing quote to see what that is, give us a painting quote, give us some fencing and some upgrades to the shed that had really kind of been dilapidated that separates our property and the neighbors. The painting quote came in very high. Obviously, we're paying a prevailing wage rate right now under this project.
Mm-hmm.
It may benefit for the town to either opt away from doing the painting or maybe do something on their own after under a small procurement that way.
Was that discussed with Ryan about?
Yes. So Ryan's been kind of the impetus for all of the decisions on this. We're providing him the quotes, and then he's kind of saying, whether or not we want to present that to the PMBC. The painting itself was over 20 grand.
Wow.
And felt as though that was going to be too expensive for a small residential house to just apply some paint on the interior. So he's keeping in mind the return on investment on whether or not he wants to pay for that now and when they're going to sell the property. So if there is a quote that comes that we are comfortable with, for example, I think replacing the toilets and some of the plumbing in the basement is going to be a good investment for the town. We would bring that to the PMBC at the next meeting to get that work done.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Anybody
that's,
got any questions for
I think
Brian?
that's where we're at.
Yeah, a couple of questions. It seemed like there was an RFI about the slope of, for the grass and some plantings on one
Yep.
side of the building, and it seems like either the landscaper or somebody came back and said, oh, the slope is fine.
Yeah, there was a little bit of misunderstanding about what was going to be getting riprap, that kind of stone material that we have around the perimeter of the building, and where the seed actually started. And so the riprap really hugs the foundation of the building down to the mechanical equipment, and then the seeding goes up on the slope with the associated spruces and evergreen trees that are being planted on that. So that's all going to be a seeded grass area. That was with the RFI. We did have the landscape architect on site today that kind of dictated some moving around of those plantings to accommodate that slope, to kind of place them in strategic areas. And then the surveyor's coming out, like I said, to adjust the property lines as they see fit for the town to keep the plantings in that hilled area on the town side so that they can maintain it.
Anybody else?
But there's no concern about erosion, or you're satisfied?
Not at this time. No, I think we're in a good spot. That's all going to be hydro seeded, and then the seed that was submitted is specific to high sun, as there's no irrigation out in that area. So they'll spray it. They'll keep it wet for a few weeks, and then once it takes, it should be in a good spot for any type of erosion. So.
Okay, and just one other question. I know the controls for some of those VRF systems are a little complicated, and I don't know what else is going on in the building, maybe lighting controls. I'm just wondering, on the town side, who's the maintenance person for the building, and are they getting some training before the guys leave?
I'll let Eric take that one, as
yeah.
he's probably all trained out at this point. But
Yeah. So Tim basically had training for the last 2 weeks, almost every day, on the BMS, the lighting system, every single thing in that building is controlled by one computer. So I've been fully trained on that. The only aspect I have not been trained on is the cooling side of it, but we haven't been able to run that under an actual load because the temperatures haven't warranted that. But the contractor is going to come back and provide one more training when the season permits.
exactly. So our kind of standard here is usually the spec dictates a lot more training than actually is done. And we want to make sure that the town's comfortable when we turn the keys over to that. And if that means we hold some money back on retainage, making sure that, we get a couple months under our belt to make sure that everyone's comfortable about how things are being run and maintained. And then even holding some money for future training on a shoulder season when heating becomes cooling and cooling becomes heating, that sometimes needs a refresher from a town's perspective. So, yeah, we're going to make sure that all the closeout documentation is ready and available for the town. It's not just a big stack of binders that you can't understand. But yeah, the training has gone well so far the past few weeks, and kudos to the town for being available to take the training. So,
and thank you to Commodore as well for recording all of that and leaving it on a little thumb drive in each of the equipment boxes that everything's in. So every stage of the training is documented and filmed.
That's great.
Yeah.
Nice.
We go to King Street, Brian or Matt?
yeah, Matt, you can take it from here, but King Street's in a good spot. We're hoping to be closed out and done construction probably in about 5 weeks. And I'll let Matt take it from here.
Sure. Just to expand on schedule for a moment, one of the goals in bringing the previous batch of change items to this committee was to give Classic a clear path to the finish of the project, and we believe that we have done that. The last schedule update that we got from Classic brought the completion date in by about a month relative to their previous iteration of it to the end of May. And although we haven't been formally promised it, we are, I think, on track to be about 5 weeks out, as Brian suggests, just in looking at Classic's actual physical progress. So current activities include floor prep and flooring. We're working sort of from the top down within the building, and they're currently working at the lower basement level with floor prep, which will be followed by the different flooring types in each room, whether that's vinyl or carpeting. We're also now we have our flooring sub on site doing the vinyl wall base to cover the bottom kick plate where the wall and floor meet. That's going on throughout the building. It's in place in some of the upper levels, and again working down in the building to complete that throughout. At this point, painting is pretty much complete except for final touch-ups, which they're coordinating between the flooring and the painter, just so we don't have any sort of overlap to have them getting in each other's way. We're into the ACT ceilings going in the basement. Is the HVAC and electrical subcontractors are putting their fixtures and their grills in that ceiling. They're filling that in, whiting that out with the ACT. I can show a picture or two in just a second, but the space is appreciably brighter, and it really does make a huge difference down there. Working our way through the building, we're into sort of finishes and details. The AED cabinets are in place. I think, Eric, you mentioned that the AEDs themselves would follow. We just didn't want to sort of have them be at risk in the middle of an active construction site of getting dusty or dirty or anything. We want to just sort of bring them in after the final cleaning when we're fronting the building. So the electricians are working their way around the building doing both finish plates and installing some of the new fixtures that we approved as those are being delivered to the job site. And we can show some pictures of that as well. They're getting the LED replacement fixtures in, particularly at the second floor at the moment. Just speaking about HVAC earlier, I forgot to mention that we do own, as part of the project, a final cleaning of the new ductwork before we turn the building over to the town. As of the beginning of this week, previously we had sort of the hardware sets as part of the project, but we were working with Neshoba Security on the locksmithing portion and the keying of all those cores to support both Parks and Rec as well as the school department. There's sort of two different parts of or branches, if you will, of the key tree overall for the building. So there's a lot of details in terms of who has access to what spaces, what sort of level of keying each employee or department manager may have within the building, and also who has access to what designated storage areas. So we sorted out all of the details on that, and we're expecting a price back from Neshoba to complete that, which we anticipated as part of the project. The elevator has been fobbed, and I think is just at this point awaiting final programming. So that's it's well underway to being complete and having that functionality for the school department in particular on the second floor, but for anybody with key fobs in the building. We've been working as we are sort of are moving through the construction with some of the both the engineering team as well as the fire department and the building inspector for sort of review of these conditions. We had a request to make a couple of minor modifications that we've coordinated with the fire chief, and that is those remedial measures involve sort of increasing some clearance around some sprinkler heads, replacing some, and so we've gone through and done that, and we're anticipating that that's going to be fully closed out. We just need final affidavits from HVAC and structural engineering. As far as furniture and moving, we're coordinating both of those items with WB Mason, and we're working with that sort of improving construction schedule that we're working with Classic on. So we want to try to time that so that we're not sort of sitting around waiting for things, but also not having it arrive too early. So Classic's not done with their punch list when we want to move things into the building. So we're trying to sort of make sure that that occurs at the right time. And we were just talking about training a little bit ago. That training for the electrical and HVAC systems, we actually mentioned that at today's job meeting earlier today. And my understanding of that is that it's, at least for the HVAC systems, is app-based. And Eric is going to be able to control that with his phone.
I guess so, yeah.
Which is cool. So yeah, and then just looking at this, the sort of the big picture turnover of the building to the town, we've had some preliminary discussions about coordinating some exterior and maintenance oriented improvements. We'll work with DPW in particular on things like patching potholes and understanding what condition we want to leave the exterior landscaping in, so that we don't sort of create a new burden for DPW to maintain the landscape. And we want it to look good both now and moving forward. I can actually share screen here. If there's any questions, I can pull this up here in the gallery. Share.
While he does that, I'll just wrap up that we don't have any changes to present to you. We are vetting 2 of their final change orders. One is with our architect for additional patching throughout. There wasn't much patching that was called out in the construction documents, but we wanted a finished product. So there was a pretty significant amount of time and material that was tracked on our end, and we're going to be vetting that and presenting that to the committee at some point. Knowing that we're over and above our original contingency, we're working with the town administrator with previous approvals before coming to you to make sure that what we're recommending can be funded by the town. So there's that. And then along with the amount of unforeseen conditions we found in this project, obviously we're a little over our original contractual end date. Classic will be looking for some sort of an extension of time with added general conditions with that. So we'll be taking that into account, reviewing that with the contract, going it over with the architect, making sure that it's a valid ask before bringing it to the committee as well. But those should be the final ones that we do bring as we financially close the project out.
Question about the keys. Does it have actual keys, or is it?
Yes.
What kind of system is it?
Yes, they're the large format cores and keys. And yeah, there are, as I understand it, there are masters, or there's a grand master for the building. We're going to supply enough copies of that for all of the emergency responders and for facilities. And then there are sort of sub masters that control the whole trees for parks and for the school department. And there's also a separate set for utility spaces. So there's a key that allows not just anybody to get into utility spaces, and the idea there is to prohibit those spaces from being accessed and used as storage. I think that's a point of emphasis from the fire department in particular.
Yeah, Tim, just quickly, the security system and access control is pretty simple system on this, where it allows employees to get in, and then it separates you by floor in order to get to the upstairs and into the children's area downstairs, and then there's access control in the elevator to allow people up or down based upon what your credentials are. And then inside of those each spaces will have kind of a subset or a key tree where a physical mechanical lock will be used.
So I was just over here scrolling through some pictures of things just to give you a sense of what sort of level all of this is finished to. So these are from the lower level basement with the diffusers in these LED lights and the ACT that I mentioned sort of being populated as HVAC and electrical wrap up within the ceiling. And just looking at this is sort of the level of the floor prep that's happening to go underneath the carpeted floor that I believe is going in this space here. So there's some new structure that's contained within these Y columns here. And we're using that as an opportunity for these little cubbies that are part of the original design here that are for storage nooks and for other use with parks as part of their program. So better view of that here.
Nice.
Out of that. And there's a number of those. This is sort of the level of the things that the HVAC was working on here. These are some of the grills from the new ductwork that are going in as part of finishing that space out. One of the other things that we authorized as part of the project was quite a bit of Cat6 and data and how we could route those through the building. So this is sort of where a number of these cables get punched up to the school department. This is where they land, and we're working to finalize that. I think that over the April break is when the switch part of this array is going in up here for the school department's tech needs in these offices. At the second floor, this is sort of where I was going with that. These are the new fixtures here. These are mid-installation. These units here sort of swing up and are mounted in these new fixtures up here. But that's in progress with new LEDs as opposed to the fluorescent tubes that were in there previously. It's going to make a huge difference in the quality and the amount of light within that space. Electricians hard at work up here. We did actually talk earlier today at our construction meeting about just looking at this when in the coming weeks, this auditorium space here, the theater space, is going to be sanded and refinished. And one of the last spaces in the sequence for refinishing the hardwood floors as we work our way out of the building is the lobby, just because that's what Classic is doing as a last step before they vacate the building. And so that's one of the last items in the sequence, but we're getting close enough that we're thinking about the timing of when we can do this and work our way out of the building for the hardwood floors. Yeah, and then just finishing up with a overall view of the exterior of the building. Things are coming together here. Any questions?
I'm all set, Matt. Unless somebody else has got any.
I had a great tour of the building. One thing, I know there's an ERV. I never found out where it is.
The energy recovery ventilator is in the ceiling above where, and it exits out the side of the building. It's from the bathrooms. In particular, it's where a lot of the ventilation, goes out and is recovered. Energy is recovered from those. It's a big place where you'd lose energy out of the building. So
it's exhausting the bathrooms?
Yes, it's on the ductwork that exhausts the bathrooms, recovering energy from those.
And it supplies air to someplace? Yeah,
it recovers the energy to go back and reheat the air elsewhere in the ductwork.
Like the whole building or the auditorium or?
The building itself is really, we'll say we inherited a building that had a lot of different systems and different patchwork that was happening. So the mechanical engineer, trying to be as less invasive as possible, was putting things in to make the building as much efficient as possible. So I don't have the answer whether it's feeding and helping the entire building itself, but it's certainly helping certain zones that we have in that first floor.
So it's feeding existing supply ducts?
Yes, it is.
Got it.
So next month we'll probably be coming back with, again, one of our final monthly reports, and we'll probably have a date on when we're going to be turning this building over, whether or not we're moved in or not, but whether the town wants to have some sort of a ceremony, making sure that we give that building its kudos as well, because it's going to be a
Mhm.
nice asset to the town after.
Brian, the police station, we
Yep.
still on
So
hold for
regarding
that
the police
right now?
station, I've reached out. I haven't heard anything back. I hope by next meeting we at least have a date, and then we'll get that scheduled and on the books. I will say, as these two other projects ramp down, our on-site involvement will probably be less too. So we'll have to work with PNBC about how we want to handle. Currently there's no need for an OPM down there, and we'll be helping what we can, but I want to make sure that that doesn't get lost in the shuffle. So once we get a date, I'll have that submitted and presented to you guys about when they're going to do some exterior envelope testing, and yeah, hopefully get the reports that we need and the mitigation work that's going to need to happen probably later this year.
Has the chief of deputies contacted you about any leakage?
They have not. They have not.
No, there hasn't been any leakage. There's still been a little bit of separation from the trim work in the windows, but there's been no water intrusion this whole winter. So I don't know. We're wondering still where it's coming in.
Either that or
Unfortunately,
could it be the
or is it?
humidity from the
Yeah,
summer months?
yeah. I don't know. So
Right. That takes care of that. I go back to Bartlett and Tim. I have two invoices. I just want to let you guys know what we have. We got one for $265.17 and one for $21.17. One of them is for signage, I believe it is, Eric, for the kitchen area in the senior
Yes.
center.
yep.
And
Yes. That was
the other one
for
is
the Board of Health.
the other one is all senior center related. I just want to let you guys know, I'm gonna email back to the town to let them know that we're gonna approve those. You guys have any qualms about that?
No,
No, I
Okay.
read them, thought they were okay.
All right.
There might be a few other things coming through, like, signage and cleaning stuff and things like that to outfit the building, but not much.
Yeah,
Mhm.
All of which will be contained in our packet that we'll submit to the next meeting.
I was just gonna say,
Mhm.
Yep.
Brian would probably get all of those anyway, so.
Mhm.
All right, the minutes of the last meetings, I'm not gonna approve those tonight. I wanna wait till we get a full complement of people here before we go approving those. I don't see any problems with them. I've read them all over. And I don't see any real problems with them. The Shake Lane feasibility study, Stacy sent an email, she wouldn't be here, and Steve took a pain medication and he says he was a little on the drowsy side. So that's the reason why he's not here. And it brings us down to member input. Tim or Bartlett?
I'm good, thanks.
no, thanks for, you guys for sending us the link to the meeting today. Didn't make it, but thanks for including us on that.
Mhm.
Okay. The motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor, Tim?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes,
Okay, and Bob, we're all set. Thank you much.
great.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone.